located on the traditional territory of many indigenous people, including the Anishinaabe, Honenoshi, Huron-Wendat, and the Métis people, and the treaty territories of Honenoshi, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and Williams Treaty First Nations. Today, this area is home to many diverse indigenous people, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of this land. We also acknowledge that the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our first close nation community. Well, members of the board, is there any declaration of interest? Any declaration of interest? I'm not seeing any. So the confirmation of the public meeting minutes of June 28, 2023. Thank you, Councillor, Board Member, Regional Councillor Jackson, seconded by Madeline. Okay, any questions or concerns on the minutes at this time? I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. Before I go into the presentations, there is one, Deb, there is a presentation, but it's later. So that members of the board, we have the draft budget presentation in the in-camera, the private session, but I'm going to bring it out of in-camera at the end of the meeting, and Jeff will make a presentation on the budget, and then the budget then will be have some comments, and then it will go to the board meeting for ratification in October. Once we go through it all, and Jeff will bring us back one after we tell Jeff what we want him to reduce it, and then he'll bring it back, won't you, Jeff? Oh, increase it. Oh, okay, that's all right. Anyway, so we'll go through it, and then it'll come to us in October. No different than what we do at Regional Council. The treasurer tables the budget, and then it comes back as the committees go through each budget. So it'll be at the end of the meeting. So we'll go through the whole agenda first, and then Jeff will make his presentation at the end. So members of the board, we have a deputation request from Ms. Martin. So I need a motion to accept the deputation. Thank you, Councillor Jackson, seconded by Mr. Burchell. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. So Ms. Martin, would you please come forward, and you can sit down there by the microphone there. I believe that the Jacqueline and that Anitra has commented about the timing of your presentation, and I know that. And so welcome. And so whenever you're ready, go right ahead. Just have to turn that little microphone on in front of you. I think it's a little one. You'll be able to hear you here, but on the screen, they would not maybe hear you as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. If you just bring that maybe just
Can
a
you hear
little
me?
closer, just that,
Good.
I think, yeah, I'm okay. Yes,
Okay.
go right ahead.
All right,
Okay,
perfect. Thank you. All right. Good morning, members of York Region Police Services Board, guests in the chamber, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you for accepting my deputation and the invitation to be here this morning. My name is Shanette Martin, and I'm the Executive Director for Anchor Canada, formerly the Vaughan African Canadian Association. For the past 20 years, this organization has been supporting the African, Caribbean, and Black community in Vaughan, York Region, and most recently across the country. Since our inception, our goal has been to provide innovative and sustainable programs for Black families while bringing awareness to issues that needed the attention of elected officials and institutions. We have provided social service supports in the region on many occasions and used our experience and access to advocate for families who are experiencing anti-Black racism in their communities, from schools to healthcare to policing. Each year that we need to keep raising the issue of anti-Black racism grieves me deeply, because within my lifetime, I would like to believe we are closer to dismantling and disrupting systemic racism. But I'm here this morning to share with you concerns regarding anti-Black racism in York Region, and in this particular instance, in the city of Vaughan. Amongst Black owners in the city of Vaughan, their interaction with York Region Police has been negative. Racism has strained economic progress for Black people over decades. We know this. The over-policing of Black business and the trauma that has caused that this has caused has led businesses to close, affect their bottom line, and have caused families to even leave the city of Vaughan. Black businesses in Vaughan have approached Anchor with their concerns over anti-Black racism and over policing in their business. Anchor has subsequently held meetings with the mayor of Vaughan, councilors, city manager, bylaw department, permits department, and concerned community members alongside some YRP diversity staff. We have made multiple attempts to meet with the YRP superintendent to discuss this issue. I have sent emails requesting meetings and invited the YRP to meetings with stakeholders to address this issue. I have not yet had the opportunity to meet with YRP to discuss this issue, and I'm awaiting for a meeting, which I hope is forthcoming. But as this issue is still persistent, I'm here today to bring it to your attention and to ask for a remedy. We have heard stories, and I personally watched YRP surveying Black businesses. And although 5 minutes is not enough time for me to share all of the instances that have been brought to us by Black businesses, I will touch on just a few. So I understand acutely the anxiety a Black person feels when they're being followed by YRP. One night, 7 York Region Police officers entered into a Black-owned restaurant and lounge in the city of Vaughan. They sat outside in their patrol cars for a few minutes and they walked in. They looked around, did not ask to speak with the manager, did not order anything. They simply entered into the business, walked around and left. Now you can imagine as a Black business, having 7 police officers come in to your establishment, what that would seem like to your the people that you're serving in your restaurant, as well as the owners. What this did on that night was made people think that something untoward was happening in that business, or else why would 7 officers walk in and walk out? This has happened on 3 other occasions. This made the business owners feel extremely intimidated and they felt harassed. They have also shared with me that on many occasions, they'll see York Region Police officers just pull up in the parking lot in front of their business and just wait and just watch and wait and just watch. This is not the first time that this incident has taken place. YRP officers have been known to patrol this business on a regular basis. They have also been seen patrolling other Black businesses in Vaughan, and I'm certain other cities within the region. We have heard about ratepayers associations calling York Region Police to investigate Black-owned businesses and patrol their place of employment and their place of work. Have they done so at the behest of individuals who simply don't want to see Black businesses thrive in Vaughan? Are residents and the police working together to intimidate Black business owners? We're all aware of the recent reports on anti-Black racism that was released earlier this year by Professor Akwasu Owusu-Bempah. The report notes that although YRP in the past has been a leader for many years in equity, diversity, and inclusion, the service's specific attention to concerns of anti-Black racism and attention to issues of racism have not been center staged in broader equity and diversity efforts. The report goes on to say, in terms of dealing with the public, YRP staff from equity-seeking groups felt that racialized minorities are over-policed and criminalized disproportionately by YRP officers. In particular, they agree that Black residents tend to be more aggressively handled than their white counterparts, although we're only 2.5% of the population. The report called on YRP to provide a clear statement to the community about the steps it plans to implement, along with target dates for implementation. And the chief at the time stated that resources to support the anti-racism action plan would be included in the budget for 2024. I am asking here today for a similar outcome based on the issues I've raised here this morning. In light of the Black community and Black business owners sharing with us their concerns involving incidents of over-policing, surveillance, and harassment, we would like to ask for a task force to look into the incidents of racism against Black-owned businesses across York Region. We would like to know if there are other business owners who have experienced similar incidents in York Region, and if so, we'd like to hear their stories. We would like to know that this issue is being taken seriously.
Can you sum up,
And-
Ms. Martin, please? Sum up,
Yeah,
please. Thank
and
you.
it's a concern for the
Yeah.
board. I'll just end with this. Black business owners want the same assurances like any other group. They want to be able to start and run their business like any other resident. They want to be able to be successful without worrying about police trying to make them feel unwelcome in their cities. These businesses were not able to be here today. They're owed an apology. And even though they're not seen this morning, I really hope they have been heard. Thank you.
Ms. Martin. Any questions of Ms. Martin at this time? Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Seconder, please. Thank you. Yep. Okay, I got just a motion to receive. Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Ms. Martin, for your deputation. The only comment I'll make is that York Regional Police takes anti-racism and anti-Black racism very serious. As you know, Mr. Chair, and I know Ms. Martin is aware, we are taking a number of steps and have taken a number of steps here at York Regional Police to address any issues for the Black community and various other communities in the region. There is staffing in our 2024 budget to address these issues for our new Professionalism, Leadership and Inclusion Office. There's mandatory training that's rolling out for every member of York Regional Police around specifically to anti-Black racism. And there are a whole host of other activities that are ongoing to address these issues. As far as the meetings that were held and invites from Superintendent Beverly, I can tell you Inspector Chester did attend the first meeting, and the second meeting we were not invited to. And to any meetings to address these very important issues for the community in the city of Vaughan and any city or town within the region, York Regional Police will be there. So I thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the motion on the floor to receive. All those in favor? Against? That motion is carried. Thank you. And we'll go on to the next one. Chief, you have a special guest with you today?
Yes, I actually have two. The first one, though, is I wanted to welcome Superintendent Derek McIntyre, who's over on the back wall. Superintendent McIntyre is actually here from Edmonton Police as part of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police mentorship program. So Derek and I are working together this week, and he's learning all about YRP and if he wants this chair ever. So I don't know about that, but we're having lots of great conversations, I can tell you that, and thoroughly enjoying my time with Derek. And I'm going to turn it over, if it's okay,
Certainly.
Mr. Chair, to General Counsel Jason Fraser to introduce one of our new lawyers on staff here.
Sure.
Morning.
Jason, go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I just wanted to take a brief opportunity to introduce, excuse me, no voice today, Chris Deavy, who is the newest counsel for York Regional Police Legal Services.
There.
This is Chris Deavy. Deavy.
Stevie, go ahead.
He comes to us from Public Safety Canada, and he started in August. He's on the agenda for one of the hires in one of the board reports, and we're very happy to have him here at YRP Legal. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Jason. Good. Okay, welcome, sir, and both of you, welcome to our force, and welcome from Edmonton. You got a good hockey, you have a really good hockey player out there, McDavid. So maybe we could trade for him. I'll give you a Matthews for McDavid. I don't think that would go over very well either. No, I don't think so. But I will. I'd throw in a bunch more stuff too, just to get McDavid here. Anyways, okay, members of the board, the first thing on communication, the chief, you want to make some comments on the memorandum from the?
Yeah.
Just put your microphone on, sir. Microphone. Good. That's okay.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I just wanted to provide some clarity and context to the memo. We've been having some conversations. As you all know, we've engaged in a cultural transformation here at York Regional Police. It's been ongoing for the past 3 years. And, you know, the nomenclature of how we refer to ourselves is part of that. And a recommendation came to us as an executive command team at the time to change our name, or at least refer to ourselves more as an executive leadership team. I completely agree with this. I believe that's as a province where we are collectively going. It's all about leadership development and leadership at the executive level. So with that being said, I actually signed a command directive this morning to get into all of our policies and procedures to change that nomenclature as well. And it's a more modern language in our profession as opposed to a top-down command approach. It's a leadership approach. So it sort of flattens the organization and brings leadership from the bottom up. So That's it, sir. Subject to any questions or
Sure.
comments? Thank you.
Questions from the board? Moved by Norma and seconded by Mario. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. Thank you, sir. Okay, members of the board, there, we go now into the reports and from 8.1 to 8.9. I'd like to hold down 8.8 because it is a recommendation either or. And then is there any others that anyone would like to pull at this time? Now we're doing from 8.1, okay, all the reports, okay, all the way to 8.9. Any of those items that want to go forward or be pulled and dealt with separately? 8.1 to 8.9. I'm holding down 8.8 because it needs a decision. Any others? Any others? Okay, move on the other balance of the report. Thank you, Walter, seconded by Madeline. Oh, and I keep forgetting you're there, sir. Steve, I will get to you. I see you got your green ticket. That's okay. All right. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. So on 8.8, members of the board, you can all speak to it, but I think that the blended hybrid model works, which allows participants to choose how they attend and participate in a meeting. I think, and the board schedule is there for your report, but I think Anitra really wanted to know which way you wanted to go, and I think the blended hybrid model works for us all. So go ahead, Linda, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I totally agree with you. I think the blended works well. It also gives board members and members of the public to watch, but also, for example, if it's bad weather or if a member is feeling under the weather, and that goes from both sides of the table, they can participate online and not feel that they've missed it. So I support that. The only thing I have to the schedule, and so of course I will definitely move A, Mr. Chair, which is the blended hybrid. I just a question on the meeting scheduled. I think, what did I have to put? Oh, is there a way, I guess just the timing, and given that a lot of us come quite a great distance, I would really prefer that we'd start these meetings at 9:30. And I know that I've been early lately.
You've been very good, though.
I know. I've
Linda,
been
you
very
were
good.
very,
But
but
it's
listen,
nine-
you were probably here before 8:30, so you're doing very well.
I rolled in at 8:30, but yes, I just think it's a little bit more civilized. I would much, now I'd like 10. But because
So-
I was literally on the phone last night at 11:15. I worked
I
very
know.
late. I don't know, Mr. Chair, I'm just throwing it
I know.
out. I just find, I don't know whether there could be a discussion with other members. I would much prefer a 9:30 start, given the distances some of us have to come, if we are going to come
Yeah.
up. I don't know, I'm just throwing that.
I know
out.
you're
So-
doing it, but I'll go so far to compromise. We'll go 8:30. No, you want to go 9:30? No, I understand that if the board really needs an extra half hour, fine, but if you're okay to come at 9, that's fine.
Just
So
throwing
what's-
it out for discussion.
I know,
I'm
so-
very happy. I'm fine with 9. I prefer 9:30, but I just wanted to hear
Yeah.
what other board members have to say.
You want
Thank you.
9:32 normal? Really?
Madeline?
Oh, okay.
Well, then, yeah.
Pardon?
Madeline would like 9:32.
Madeline too. Geez, I'm getting outnumbered on this one.
It's like, we're not farmers, so it's, and I was up half the night because like, that's why I'm here early, because I always think I gotta sleep through my alarms. I woke up at 5:30 this morning. My husband's like, are you sick? Do you need to go to the hospital? It's like,
So that means, well, if we go through with the 9:30, that means everybody will have all their homework done before they come. Well, that'd be great.
Mr. Chair, the point is that this board meetings run very efficiently, very quickly, and they don't drag on. So there's no fear that we need extra time for it to drag on. So,
Okay.
because you do such a great job chairing,
You're
that's why I'm
just,
proposing. the
boy,
9:30.
she ever be. Hey, watch the laughing.
So, Mr. Chair, my motion would be for model,
Okay,
for
but I can
blended.
let Anitra, before I put your motion on, I'll let Anitra, go ahead.
Okay, through the chair, and with respect to Member Jackson's question, the timing proposed, we could look into moving it if that is what the board desires. However, the availability of the room and the support staff we rely on from the region to provide us with that support during this meeting also must be taken into account. So it's not an impossibility, but it is something that staff could
possible.
look at.
So
It's possible.
we could do that, yeah.
Through the chair to Chief of Staff Bajoni.
Okay, but no. But anyway, Anitra's only trying to be, because really,
being-
we're
she's being
guests
polite.
here, okay?
She's
Please,
being.
the police is a guest. But anyways, okay, the motion
Yeah,
on
but a
the
lot of us
floor.
aren't guests here, though, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Mr. Chair, but I'd like to move A, and I'd also like to move an amendment,
Sure,
is that all meetings commence at 09:30.
9:30 and move, you're gonna move item number 1 with the board supports the proposed schedule with meeting time start at 9:30
Yes, sir.
and 2, and we go with 2A and 3 would be, stay the same, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Seconder? Oh, Madeline, I see that head go up. Okay, any further comments? All right, okay. All those in favor? All those in favor? Against? Okay, that motion's carried. Me too, Mary too, Mario. Okay, thank you. Okay, that completes the reports, and now we're going to go into Jeff is going to present the budget, okay? And it's in your private session, so if you bring that one forward, if you've got it with you, you can bring the private session. We moved the budget presentation to the open session, Norma, because I believe it should be open to the public. Okay? And while Jeff's getting set up, remember what the reason was that we moved the November board meeting change? I think it had to do with former board member Ms. Fang. But was there a reason why we moved that date? And I think because it only gives us 3 weeks from today to the next board meeting, if I do my math right. But I'm not sure if would that give you enough time to do the reports? I'm wondering whether we'll come back to that one, but think that over. Was there anybody in your schedule that asked for that meeting to move from the 22nd to the 15th? It was Ms. Fang? So, okay, we'll come back to that, okay? Thank you. Okay,
Mr.
Jeff?
Chair, can I make
Yes.
a comment to start?
Sure, yes, go ahead,
Thank you.
chief.
So you're going to get the initial presentation, as you'd mentioned, from our Executive Director, Jeff Channel, Senior Manager, Sunita Airy. I just want to thank them for all of the work they've put into this. As you can imagine, I know you deal with this all the time, but our team here does a fantastic job on budget presentation and assisting and coordinating and managing the executive leadership team here to make sure we provide the best budget to support the region of York and all of the activities around York Regional Police. So with that, I can turn it over to both Jeff and Sunita. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you and good morning. Jacqueline, just to confirm, we're streaming correctly. Thank you again. So thank you, Chief. And today's presentation is approximately 25 minutes in length. And Sunita Airy and I will walk the board through the 2024 budget proposals. This presentation picks up from the June 28th meeting, where the board approved a report on timelines for the development and approval of the 2024 operating and capital budgets. A key detail of the June reports was challenges in meeting budget allocations received from Treasurer Mirabella. I want to answer that question on the first slide. In 2024, the operating budget proposal in front of you meets the expectations. However, we exceed expectations by $1.6 million in 2025 and $2.5 million in 2026, primarily due to continuing to keep the staffing needs of the service in those years. Sunita will provide an overview of the capital budget and will show you that our proposal today meets the budget allocations over the 10-year period. On timelines, the intent of today's tabling is to generate feedback for the approval at the board's October meeting, which is in line with the timelines outlined and for council's approval by December. Please. Across the top of this slide are the 4 themes contained in the board's 2023 to 2025 business plan, the document that outlines strategic priorities and actions that guide the work of the organization and its members. I'm pleased to say that today's proposal advances all of the 8 key priorities that you see in front of you, and specifically the staffing addresses 7 of the 8 top priorities. In short, the improvements in the staffing process in particular has made great strides at aligning budgeting to the priorities that are set out by the board. Next slide, please. At its May 18th meeting, the board received a fulsome report and discussion of the 2022 statistical report. This slide provides a mid-year check-in around crime trends. It's taken from YRP's community safety portal. The public has full access to this information, and it's over 1 year. It shows 8 of the 12 crime categories are increasing. It's a similar story over 5 years, where 11 of these crime categories are increasing. So it's not an alarming conversation. It's just to identify that crime trends continue to increase. The operating budget this year is characterized by an increase of 4.6%, resulting in a net request totaling $410.1 million. The proposal includes 46 additional staff while affording what are high years in IT and inflationary costs. Next slide, please. The board is familiar with this chart, which shows gross expenditures at the amount that's going to be spent of $450 million. Removing revenues gets us to the $410 million number. And the big blue area, 85%, continues to be salaries and benefits. And this is a small change over previous years at 86%. You can see the other large categories of general program, financial, and occupancy listed on the slide. This next chart and the majority of the presentation is focused on the incremental budget. So what is going up 1 year over the other year, which is an $18.2 million increase, led primarily by wages for existing complement at $12.3 million. Combine that with the $2.4 million on row 3 for additional staff, and we have $14.7 million. It's wage-related costs, and that represents 80% of this year's request is wages. $5 million is for operating expense. It's a historically high year, and we're going to discuss the technology costs and inflationary changes in an upcoming slide. There's $1 million for principal interest and contributions to capital reserves, which are the costs of funding capital spending. And finally, we'll show you an upcoming slide on a $2.5 million increase to revenues. And this was informed by a review of the 2022 surpluses and trending that we are already seeing in 2023, which I'll also explain in an upcoming slide. This slide shows the wage impacts of existing staff. It totals $12.3 million. And if you start at the 1 o'clock position around salaries and benefits, this relates to contractual rate increases. Over half of it is contractual rate increases through collective bargaining process. There's $2.8 million, which is annualization of last year's hire. And to explain what this is we gap our first year. It's a cash flow basis. So when we were onboarding 41 members last year, we onboarded about half the costs. And this is an annualization process to pay for 12 months of those hires. That's $2.8 million. And the remainder of those the costs here are reclassifications among existing positions and benefit rate changes. We are in the second last year of stepped increases around the CPP or Canada Pension Plan. Paid duty officers at the bottom of this slide, $1.5 million. It's a recoverable cost. So you're going to see this here as an expense, but you're also going to see it on our revenue slide, and they offset one another. Wage exceptions refers to items that are outside of budget systems, and there's a number of pressures and offsets within this account, but it includes the board's 2023 research analyst hire position, and it also includes a small amount of funding to pre-hire some members. So it's pre-hiring some members into the plan. It's not a full position, but it allows us some flexibility on the hiring side. And finally, the overtime increase is a contractual rate increase. It maintains the existing number of overtime and court hours. Next slide, please. And this costs at $2.5 million for transitioning software as a service starts in 2022, where there's the completion of capital projects. Once we transform them into working assets, that results in the ongoing costs or the SaaS costs to be moved from capital to the operating budget. We were able to do quite a bit this year at $2.5 million. And the 2022 proposal moves e-notes and digital evidence SaaS costs to the operating budget. We also have additional planned stepped increases for Microsoft licenses in 2025 and cloud storage costs by 2026. Thank you. And finally, other expenditures. This is $2.5 million. And inflationary costs is a basket. It's a basket of accounts, but it includes facility costs for cleaning and ground maintenance, cost increases around ammunitions, uniforms, and personally issued equipment, among other accounts. Training and member development adds funding to bring management training programs in-house. Fleet and logistics includes increased funding to maintain vehicles and to pay for radio spectrum licenses. Corporate communications provides funding to implement recommendations of a consultant around alternate delivery of services. And finally, air support, and it relates to the relocation of the unit. The next slide shows additional staff, and the cost this year at GAAP cost is $2.4 million for 46 positions. And like previous years, we take a long-term view or an incremental investment approach that we feel is the best way to balance the needs of the community and improve public safety while maintaining fiscal affordability. As noted earlier, the 4 themes of the business plan are shown here, and they better align the staffing request to the strategic needs. The requested 46 additional staff have a 2024 first-year cost of $2.4 million. Details are included in the board's package today around staffing justification, and it's included on your eScribe account. I would want to just, one back, please. I would want to just confirm that this is a gapping treatment. There is a full cost. So as you're approving staff, there are outlook year costs to that to annualize in the next year and reclassify those members as they work their way through the uniform and salary pay grids. Total cost would be $6.9 million for this staff once fully realized. And revenue increases. So this is a robust year on revenues. It starts with looking at our 2022 surplus and how to avoid that by 2024. And revenues formed a large portion of the surplus last year. So starting at your 1 o'clock, paid duty officer fees, this is the $1.5 million revenue. It's offset to the pressure that we described on the prior slide. Fees and charges total $1.1 million. We're making a large increase to fees and charges, and we expect a new schedule in front of you by the end of the year. Grant increases total $500,000, and this is around the court security prisoner transportation grant. And that does carry some risk because the province gives us contracts and the current one expires in December 2023. The next slide shows operating budget as a glance, and I'll run you down the 2024 column, excuse me, starting with the gross expenditures of $450 million. By removing revenues gives you your net number. That's a 4.6% increase. It adds 46 additional staff, and we meet budget allocation all in 2024. However, when you look at the outlook in 2025 and 2026, you can see that increase column about midway through the slide that we're now dropping below 4% increases in both years. However, we're on the bottom line unable to meet the budget allocations. There's been great collaboration since last year with the treasurer and the treasurer's staff around funding these variances. And with that, I'll turn this to my colleague, Sunita, to review the capital budgets.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? The 2024 Capital Spend Authority budget proposal is $35.3 million. Included in this proposal is $3.5 million of rebudgeted funds, and I'll present a separate slide to highlight these items. This chart highlights the 2024 capital plan details of $29.7 million by asset category. Under facilities for $10.8 million, this includes the Vaughan Metropolitan Substation as presented to the board in the April meeting. The capital funds are for the leasehold improvements, furniture and fixture to construct and outfit the community substation. Due to the upcoming closure of the Buttonville Airport, we have a new request for a sprung hangar for Air 2. We are currently doing our due diligence to ensure that any site meets the necessary criteria and conditions to minimize downtime and remains in compliance with regulatory requirements and operating guidelines for aerial vehicles. We also have renovations at Harry Walker Parkway and plus the final warranty payment for 240 Prospect renovations. Under vehicles for $7.7 million, this is for the annual replacement of vehicles and a mobile command post replacement, which was originally purchased in 2002. Under information technology for 7.1 million. This includes the hardware, software, and infrastructure for our annual refresh as part of our evergreening strategy. We have a people system software implementation, which supports leading practices in talent management and employee development, as well as business intelligence annual enhancements. Under equipment for 4.1 million, we have our annual furniture, uniform equipment, firearms, and conducted energy weapon refresh. We have technical investigations equipment, a large size bomb robot, and forensic lab equipment and software. I mentioned earlier about the rebudgeted items. So during the development of the annual budget, my team in the budget unit review forecasts with project managers to identify budget impacts from project delivery. In 2024, a total of 3.5 million is requested from the 2023 capital budget to 2024. 3 million is for information technology projects, including our people systems, connected officer and business intelligence projects, and 600,000 for the final warranty payment for 240 Prospect renovation. The 10-year capital submission is $1.7 million below prior year submission and is below budget allocation by $1.2 million. The two major areas that show significant inflationary increases resulting in a 30.8 million increase are the vehicle project, which has seen an increase of 12.2 million or 23% compared to the previous 10-year capital plan. And this is based on recent quotes received for new and replacement vehicles and for specialty vehicles. In addition, a 5-district construction project planned for the years of 2032 and to 34 has increased by 10.5 million or 42% based on the non-residential construction price index. And the 10-year capital plan has been reduced by 29.1 million due to the transition of, as Jeff mentioned, the implemented software as service IT projects from the capital to the operating budget. These ongoing subscription costs of the SaaS projects are moved from the capital budget to the operating budget once the project is fully implemented. The 10-year capital budget request is $218.5 million. So in addition to the annual refresh of IT and fleet assets, plus facilities renovations and equipment for new members, other projects included in the 10-year capital plan to meet operational needs include the specialty vehicle replacement plan. And this project includes the replacement of the command post, specialized trucks, an armored vehicle, and this is all funded by the Police Infrastructure Reserve. And a new project is to install police video CCTV cameras at 10 intersections in the region with high rates of violent crime activity. And this is a proactive measure to aim to combat crime and violence by leveraging video surveillance systems in public areas. And this project is 50% funded by the provincial government. And with that, I'll pass it back to Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita. And this slide is familiar to the board. We've amended it to the top 10 municipal comparators. That adds Winnipeg and Durham to this list from previous years. Just by way of information, York Region lands in the middle of this list from a population perspective. And this slide shows the relationship between cost and performance on one slide. So the costs on the left, as you can see, York is tied for the lowest cost per capita amongst top 10 municipal comparators. Looking on the crime severity index, York Region lands third lowest from a safety perspective. So again, I hope that you see the value that we see in being in this quadrant of low crime and low cost. Next slide, please. The key messages for the 2024 budget include a large year for inflationary costs, a large year for technology costs. We spoke about the software as a service changes. The 46 additional staff are all intended to hit the strategic priorities outlined in the board's business plan. As Anita has mentioned, $218.5 million over 10 years gets you a capital plan that meets asset management planning best practices. And it results in maintaining amongst the lowest cost per capita amongst the large 10 municipal police comparators in Canada. Next slide, please. On timelines, as we talked about at June, the board approved the timelines, and I'm pleased to say all of the submissions have also reached the formats expected by Treasurer that meets the two criteria in the Police Services Act of formats and timelines. Today, we were seeking your feedback into what you've seen today. We will bring any amendments requested to the October 25th meeting for approval, and that hits the timeline for the treasurer's tabling on November the 23rd. We are the second week of the committee of the whole, and that's December 2nd, December 7th for the chief's presentation to council with a tentative approval at council by December 21st. So with that, Chair, I turn this back to you for any deliberations and feedback.
Well, thank you very much. Questions? Linda? Yep.
I have a question.
Ariel, go ahead. Yeah.
On the slide at 2024 and 2025 and 26, the 2024 increase was above 4%. I'm kind of a little bit shocked that there's a decrease at 2025 and 2026, while the population of York is increasing drastically in these next 2-3 years. How could you accomplish that? It's a little confusing to me. I think the more population, there should be more cost of police, more cost of equipment, more cost of everything. I'm a little bit confused there.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, excellent question. Thank you again. And in the outlook year, it's mostly driven by the staffing. So the cost at below 4% can be linked to the new staffing of 31 additional staff in 2025 and 36 additional staff in 2026. But to your question, why aren't you growing at close to 40 people or 46 people in those years? And there are tremendous efficiencies going on within the organization. I'll name 3 of them that could result in staffing savings in the outlook years. One is a motor vehicle collision online report. Now this report could replace, we've already done a pilot project around it, but it could replace about $3 million of costs of roadside reporting by officers or reporting at the CRC or the Community Resource Centers where the public goes today. Another one is pre-charge diversion. And council is going to see this in their budget book, but it's a rare, it's a very successful pilot project at this point, and it allows an officer to divert for smaller charges, divert those charges from the court system into social services. That's being led by the John Howard Society. And it has potentially tremendous impacts to policing with fewer court dates. So that is some of the efficiencies, sir. Cloud computing is another one that has also, but that doesn't necessarily have staffing impacts.
Thank you. May I add just, is it possible to look at police work in a vertical system that the cities are getting built today instead of vertical the way it's being used to? Because there could be some kind of a saving there, and give better, I mean, saving in a way I don't need to stop spending because we need to in order to have police functioning properly. But is it something that could be looked at?
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I might pass this over to my friend and colleague Paula De Silva from an operating, but I will make a comment. You did hear in the presentation a substation at the Vaughan Metropolitan Center, and this has been a partnership opportunity, and the board has considered a lease opportunity in a prior meeting. And with that, I'll hand it over to Deputy De Silva.
Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, we continue to look at how we provide our services. And obviously, as York Region continues to grow vertically, one of those pieces is actually how do we service the community from a vertical standpoint. So part of our review is to actually look at how we implement systems, how we actually police, how we look at our sectors, how many vehicles are in our cars. And one of those opportunities presented itself with VMC, and that'll be our first foray actually into a very substantial community that is planned to be 100,000 people, and how that actually allows us a little bit of a glimpse into policing in a very highly dense population. And we look to leverage technology and opportunities like our community safety portal to actually interact with our community a little differently, because most of those residents are going to be in 60-story buildings. And we may not have an opportunity to perhaps on foot patrol or in vehicles, have those connections or those community engagement opportunities. So to your question, we are looking at ways of policing differently in the future.
Chief?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and through you. And I'll add to that, don't underestimate the opportunity for us through the use of special constables. I'm currently working right now with the ministry on the new regulations for special constables and how they are to be used. You will see special constables in locations like that, where in terms of vertical policing, we really think a lot about, to Paulo's point, technology. But when we think of the boots on the ground and who needs to be there, do you need a police officer there? You will need some, but it may not have to be all police. And so this is the type of environment we're trying to create and determine the best use of special constables. And that's in the plan for next year as well. So a lot of work being done at the ministry level around that.
Linda?
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, Mr. Carlucci raised those issues. I'm going to actually just go backwards on them, just on that. And I want to talk about vertical response. And I'm going to look to my wonderful friend, Mr. Carlucci, because he's going to be wanting to listen to this. I guess when it comes to vertical response, especially in the VMC, as we all know, Deputy De Silva mentioned 60-story buildings. The problem that we're having, at least I know, for example, from Vaughan Fire, is repeaters and radios, and they're not working. Where are we with promoting this? I mean, we're building. Like I've done a little bit of work on this, but I think that we need to get the repeaters into the towers, into these buildings. And I believe that if we ask nicely, people like Mr. Cortellucci would put these in for us as a gift. And I think that we really need to get that, because I know in some instances there was a fire in the VMC recently, I think up around 50, 55. And I know in speaking to Chief Zavanatas, they had to go out on an angle to be able to shoot up. And when you're in critical situations like that, whether it's fire, police, we need to be able to ensure that those officers are safe and that they can speak to the people on the ground. So I know it's kind of off topic, but I think it's on topic, because I think if there's funding that we need to allocate and to be able to get out and do this, whether we're retrofitting or whether we're adding these to new builds, I think it's really important. I don't know who could speak to it, Mr. Chair, for you.
Jeff?
Jeff?
Thank you very much, Chair, and through you to the council, regional councillor. You've raised an excellent point, and I can speak to the internal discussions that we've had around repeating technology and standards that differ. In the United States, there is a building code that does require repeaters into certain sizes of building. I always advocate and appreciate your executive director's discussion around advocacy. I think that there's absolutely space that that we could work with you, Councillor, and with Anitra on developing advocacy around similar building code requirements.
Anitra? Want to make anything? She just whispered in my ear, it's about the building code.
It's a terrible building, but still.
Yes,
Okay.
well, one of the tools that we can use, especially when we are designing our systems and even how we respond and the tools that the service is using, we rely on the various different codes and legislation, regulation. And this is an opportunity where the board members and any of our community friends and members may also advocate for certain changes that make it a requirement to have these in buildings, especially of a certain height and a certain build width. There are all sorts of qualifiers within the building code we can advocate to be put in there, because we don't have control over who's building and how they're building. And we know over years, there have been numerous amendments to the building code and they're still behind. So things that we are already looking for in those buildings haven't necessarily been fully thought out yet. So if we put the board, for instance, the forefront of advocating for that, that would be one step. I mean, it would have to be a multi-pronged approach.
Through the chair to Sneaker, thank you. Yes, I'm unfortunately all too familiar with the Ontario Building Code. So, but I think the thing is that I think that'd be great, but to get that into legislation is going to take a very long time. I'm talking about, let's do it today. Let's get out to these builders who are building specifically in the VMC. We're now looking at other applications throughout Vaughan 40. I worked on one yesterday, 55 stories, nowhere near the VMC. Whether it gets approved is another thing, but I think it's great that we advocate to the province and our members of provincial parliament to get that into the building code, but that's going to take forever. I think what we have to do is now, we have a lot of projects that have been approved in Vaughan recently. Let's get out there. Let's figure out what it takes to ask these people if they would do it voluntarily, and put these, I know it's not expensive. It's not in the grand scheme of things. If we go at them when they get the approval, if it is going to cost them, they just work that into the price of the units. So I think it's something that, I think it's two-pronged, Mr. Chair. I think we need to get at them right now, but we also need to start advocating to, and not only for York Region, but also throughout the province to add this into the Ontario Building Code. That's my first comment with that. But I'd like to go back through you to Jeff. And there was the initial slide about for next year, 46 additional FTEs or staff. Now, my question is, which is great. Can you tell me, can you break that down between sworn and civilian?
Yes, through you, Chair. There are 29 sworn, 15 civilian, and 2 senior officers. And yes, I can confirm they are both civilian. So 17 civilian, 29 sworn.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Chair, Jeff, what did we do for this year? What was the numbers, please?
41 additional staff, and the split was 19. Sorry, just one moment.
We're doing that this afternoon, 2 o'clock. We're doing that one this afternoon at 2 o'clock, swearing them in.
Oh, I know.
No, but it's 37 coming. I don't think there's 41, but I think some maybe couldn't come, but I don't know the breakdown.
This is my point. How many sworn officers? I thought we had 41 this year who will become sworn, or we could swear at them.
Yeah, and we're just checking that out.
I
However, I believe it's
I guess-
22 sworn and 19
So-
civilian, I believe.
Thank you, but through the chair to, so then we look at 2025 and 2026. I appreciate the comments that you, in response to Mr. Carlucci with respect to the new technologies. But people see 31 from 4, they're going to lose it. There's no way. And Mr. Chair, I can't support that. Specifically being a member who represents the city of Vaughan, like it's out of control. I don't know. I understand that there are some savings with technologies, but we have to constantly every year put more officers on the street. I mean, you look today, Mr. Chair, through you at the list of retirements and people who are leaving this service. We need to keep pace. I find this very unacceptable. And I tell you, if the public gets a hold of this and has a look at this, that they're reducing it without an explanation, we need to take this seriously, Mr. Chair. So I don't know. I don't like this slide. I'm not going to go any further. Maybe you can provide a bit more context.
Thank you. And there was considerable deliberations on the outlook year staffing, and that has really been a year-long conversation with Treasurer Marabella. The estimates that we were initially provided were far below. So I appreciate the support. We'll take that back, I think, to the team to revisit that outlook year number, Mayor Jackson, Deputy Mayor Jackson.
Okay. Mr. Chair, through you, maybe you can have a discussion offline. I don't think this should be shown at committee, at council when we bring the budget forward. I assume this slide will be up on the screen.
It typically would be.
I don't support that, Mr. Chair. I think because it's just things will just explode.
Yeah, but this is what the discussion is today, and you'll get.
No, I get that. No, I get that. I'm just throwing that out.
I don't-
You do it what you want. I'm just concerned with the backlash. So
But
the other thing, thank you through, and sorry, I'm taking a bit more time here. Through you, Mr. Chair, the 10-year capital plan, if you could bring that up, please. Now, I'm going to preface my comments, Mr. Chair, by saying, 10-year capital plan, the 10-year capital plan could look different next year. I know that things change, just like with our regular York Region budget, the tenure, it sort of changes.
Mhm.
My question here is, I see a five district replacement. Wasn't 5 district built after 4 districts? They're basically the same building as far as my memory serves me.
Through you, Mr. Chair, they were built about 4 years apart in the 1980s. 5 District is our oldest district today.
Okay. So through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the point is that there's been some talk over the last 5 or 6 years about realignment of districts and an additional new district. I find it disappointing that we're not looking at putting some money out for that, because I think we're going to look at realigning and adding additional district or additional station. I find that I would rather fix up 5 district and build a new district and take that money and put, but that's just a comment. I don't want to really say too much. Jeff and I have had discussions. I mean, I'll leave it like that, but I think that we need to look at a new district as opposed to replacing 5 district. I think a renovation overhaul, and I don't think it was the 80s. I think it was the 90s, to be quite honest with you, because I think 4 district opened in the 90s. I want to say 93, 94, memory serves. I'm right? No, I know I'm right. So I know when 4 district opened because I was there. So anyways, it was in the mid 90s. So I guess just to my point, Mr. Chair, is that, you know, maybe it's just because we haven't got that through, but sort of we're looking out to 10-year with capital. I think an expansion of an additional district and additional like building would be great.
Chief?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. We're due, Ms. Jackson. One of the things we do on a regular basis is, or periodically, is we go back out through consultants to determine, based on population, crime, arrival time at calls, all of the data that's required to determine where the best position is for a new police station, or if we even need a new police station. Your point is quite on point in that we are due to go back out again. We've been having discussions on that, and you know, we need to be data driven and make sure that we're placing those locations in a location that best serves the entire York Region population. So whether it's a reno to 5 and a new station in the future, there's been some consultation around various locations, whether one being in the city of Vaughan, one being in Richmond Hill with the new subway. All of it's up in the air right now until we go back at this work through a consultant.
Thank you. Through you, just to follow up to that, Chief, when are we going to engage this consultant to revisit?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, there's active work ongoing right now with the consultant, and we're expecting a master facilities plan coming forward soon. So it's under review right now.
Within 6 months, through the chair?
I would hope so.
Fantastic. That's it for me.
Thank you.
I think I've spent enough.
Norma, did you have a question?
Thank you.
You okay? Okay, Walter?
A specific technical question. One of the efficiencies you're generating is cloud computing. And I understand that represents the opportunity to save a significant amount of money by consolidating data. My specific question is, it also represents an operational risk. This is the age of the sophisticated hacker. This is the age of a transition in technology and skill sets. This is AI. This is quantum computing. The crown jewels are the thing that protects not only the police service, but most importantly, the people of York Region. Is part of this cost include really very, very carefully and well-established defenses of those crown jewels?
Go ahead, sir.
Through you, Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Purchell, for the question. I'll defer part of my answer, if I could, sir, to the private session because it relates to the operational capacity. But my public comment is we have a robust program. It's been very well thought out, and I'd like to elaborate further on that in private. I do have 2 points of clarification. I did get a question around 2023 additional staff, 21 uniform members, 20 civilian hires for a total of 41. And I received a question regarding the dates of the buildings. 5 District was built in the 80s, but operational in 1990. 5 years later was the operational start of Ford District in 1995.
Good.
So was I.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff, on the Harry Walker, that's a new building. Why are we renovating that building already or doing, what are we doing to that?
Thank you very much. And this is a new, just confirming, yes, this is fine. For sorry, I'm just thinking
It's okay.
private, public, through you, Chair. It's a renovation of the Regions Harry Walker Parkway located at 145 Harry Walker Parkway. We're moving part of our evidence into that space, but it
Okay.
needs a retrofit of the space, racking, that kind of a renovation, and that gets us out of an existing lease.
Facility. Thank you. Okay, so when you talk about technology, I assume there's technology, we do technology, you explained about its cost savings. That's the way to go, especially with these tickets. And I think we're talking that at the region. So I think it's a great idea because we don't need police officers. We're doing some of like, it needs to move off and let them have more time. They need to be out on the street. So I'm glad. And I think when you start to present budgets, the technology course of what we're spending on technology should be front and center so the public knows that we're actually going to the technology. It's going to be a cost saving. Linda, you talked about the building code. Excuse me, I think you're right. I think, would it be possible that the staff could bring back a report to the October board meeting? Because I do believe we need to tell the 9 local municipalities. I agree, that's not wait to the province, but we asked the 9 local municipalities when they look at a facility, a building, that they consider, I don't think, and then maybe the fire department could come on with us because, and the ambulance, they could consider applying the technologies in these facilities so that when they do approve a building of 55 stories or whatever, then that's one of the, that I think you can ask. I don't think we can force it, but I think by asking them to say, could, when the ground level, when you're coming out of the ground, now's the time to put it in, not go back in and try to retrofit. So the idea would be to get the 9 local municipalities, not on side, but make them aware that we need the technologies in the facilities to do this. And that's what I think we would be wise to bring back a report so that we would say to them, I don't want to shoot from the hip. I want to be able to give them some technology and some data to say, this is the what needs to be done. And I don't know what that is. Sure, that's fine. Yeah, sure. Okay, but that's okay, but I think we need to. Yeah. Well, no, I don't, no, the locals have to do it because it, yeah. But it's at the local, it's not at the planning, it's a local building stage when they say this is what has to be put in. I'm only suggesting we do start with the 9 municipalities, but then also in that resolution, we would send it to the province of Ontario. Okay? Yes,
Just quickly, just through you, Mr. Chair, just to Mr. Carlucci's point, well taken. I think that we need to investigate that as well. I mean, to get the OBC to change is going to take forever. But if we were, but to his point, if there is a way in the Health and Safety Act in Ontario that we can somehow get this, I think that would be an extra hook. But I really do think, though, that coming back in October, maybe Anitra, my apologies, can look into, I'm thinking this one.
okay.
Anyways, yes, I think that's fantastic.
Good. So if we can do that well, along with this, it'll come back. And then with the staffing, I think that, yeah, the staffing doesn't, I think Jeff has explained, but maybe we'll come back with another slider just to explain a little bit more where our staffing's going. It does rely a little bit on what we can get and how many people we can get. And it's not just to say, okay, let's just put 50 in the budget. If you can only get 30, that's a different story. So I think we need to be cautious on what we're trying to do. And I think the staff have laid out a really good plan. Do you want to say something, Steve?
Yeah, just to the recruitment piece, as you're mentioning it, I just want to be clear on the fact that when we're talking net new people of 46 and we have the split of 20, 29, whatever that split was, I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, 29, 15, that's net new. So that's on top of us still recruiting to backfill for attrition leaves. So we're not just recruiting 29 people this year, we're recruiting for next year, there's an added class. We don't have the final number, which we sit down and determine numbers based on budget, based on the needs of the organization. But the reality is, right now, we're trying to fill each class with 40 people, right? So next year, if we were to continue to do the same thing, we would recruit 160 people if it was 40 per class. We don't know what that number is yet. We don't even know if we have the allotted space at OPC yet for that high a number. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this. So I just wanted to point out that when we're recruiting, we're not just recruiting 29 people, we're recruiting 100 plus every year. And so, and the other piece on this is we are in the process of, and we talked about it yesterday, of completely doing another whole new outreach program to help us recruit. So that's another conversation, but it's all hands on deck right now as it relates to recruiting, to your point, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I hate to belabor through the chair, the chief, thank you. But I really think though that, don't get me wrong, the thing is, I understand it. The average person doesn't. Average person looks at that slide. I just think we need to figure out a way to make it look like we are expanding, because people want, I mean, I understand civilians and the great work that they do, but people are looking for frontline officers, okay? And they want people on the street. So I know what you're saying, but I think that if you look at that slide and you're a layman, you don't get it. It looks like it's going to be less. So I don't know whether it's a way to show the increase as you go forward with sworn, how many officers are, you know what I'm saying? I just think that we all get it, but somebody may not, and then they spin it in the wrong direction. And I'll leave it like that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There'll be some more information come back in a month's time. And on the facility, I think Deputy Chief Hammond has already stated that we're working in a process to look at this and we're going forward. So my motion that I'm going to ask Mayor Pellegrini to move is that receive and refer to the October board meeting for ratification to the budget. Okay, thank you, Mario. Seconded by Mario. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. Okay, members of the board, I did ask about the November board meeting, and I'm going to ask them to go back to the original November 22nd, because I do believe that extra time would give us time to put everything in place for, in case there's even if there's any changes that go to the budget presentation, it would give us a couple weeks before we have to present the budget. So I'd ask that Linda move from November 15th to November 22nd, because our board meeting was always 22nd, but I believe one of the members said she was unable to attend. So if I can move it back to the 22nd, I believe that'll help Anitra and all those down. You okay with that, Norma? Thank you. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. Is there any other business brought before the open session before I go into private session? Moved by Madeline and seconded by Walter that we move into camera in the private session at this time. Okay, all those in favor? Against, the motion is carried. So I'll ask to whoever is supposed to be here is not here, and who is supposed to be here should be here. How do I say that again? Not that we don't want everybody here, but no,